Chapter 80 of The Plum in the Golden-Based Chongzhen edition of the Embroidered Portrait. Pan Jinlian sells sex and goes to bed in the east. Li Jiar steals money and returns to Lyon. The poem says, I was looking for the Old Testament for no reason due to drunkenness, but I couldn't win because of melancholy. There is a deep spring rain in the quiet pavilion, and there is a midnight light on the curtain in the distance. When I hug the pillars, there is a gentle breeze, and my thoughts are high as I walk around the corridor. Under the clear window, I smell cutting, and I knock on the railing to call out. It is said that Simon King died, but on the first 7 days, the 16 monks of Baoguo Temple were doing water and land. Count Ying was dating 7 people. Xi Zida, Hua Xiao, Zhu Xinian, Sun Tianhua, Chang Zhiji, and Bai Laiguang. They were sitting together. The count spoke first and said, the high officials are gone, and we are now in the same situation. You and I during the friendship, I had eaten his things, used his things, and borrowed his things. Could it be that the descendants of Sa Yimimi did not know that he died today? He went to the 5 Hell Kings and refused to forgive you and me. Now, you and I will each give 1 penny of silver, and the 7 of us will put together a total of 7 pence. Hold a table of sacrifices by a scroll, and then back. Mr. Shui made a memorial poem and carried it away. The high officials paid homage to him and asked him for 7 cents of silver for a filial piety silk. Is this good? Everyone said. That's what I said. At that moment, everyone pulled their money and handed it over to the earl. They prepared the sacrifices and bought the axes. The Yangshui scholar made the memorial inscriptions. This scholar had always known that Count Ying was a friend of Simon King, so he wrote a memorial poem with hidden sarcasm. The count and others carried the sacrifice to the altar, and Chen Jingji returned the favor by wearing mourning. The count was the leader, and everyone burned incense. Everyone was vulgar, but he knew what it felt like. After pouring the libations, they just read out the blessing message. The text briefly states, in the first year of Wei Zhang, in the Wuxi period, in the 2nd month of the Wuzi period, on the 3rd day of the Yu lunar month, Zhang Yin, the students who served as teachers were Ying Zhuge, Xi Zida, Hua Xiao, Zhu Xinian, Sun Tianhua, Chang Zhiji, and Bai Laiguang. I would like to have a clear drink. The ritual of delicacies was dedicated to the spirit of the late Simon official in Jinyi, saying, Wailing was upright and strong in nature. He was not afraid of the soft and did not surrender to the hard. He always helps others with a little water, and always helps others with his essence. The back is quite thick, and the spirit is impressive. He lifts up when he is happy, but falls down when he encounters darkness. Living in the Jin Crotch team, waist-high curry collection. If you have anise, you don't need to scratch it. If you encounter lice, the itching will be unbearable. The favored boy is always there to help. He also stayed in Liuzhou and Zhangtai, and was rampant in Ziguan. It's time to keep your head up and work hard, fighting for a long time. Why do you suffer from a disaster that you can't afford? Seeing this, you stretch your legs and go away, leaving the younger generation behind, like a dove stumbling. Where can you lean? It's hard to reach his fireworks village, and it's hard to rely on his 8-character red wall. No longer can we sit together at the same table and watch soft jade. And we can no longer sit together on horseback and watch the warm fragrance. The person who is leaning away lowers his head and settles down, while the person who is avoiding is calm and calm. Today I offer a white turbid drink, and next time I offer an inch cup. The spirit is not ignorant, and it comes to Jan to Shin. Still enjoy. After everyone finished offering sacrifices, Chen Jingji came down to return the gift and asked him to go to the roll shed to make 3 soups and 5 cuts, but left without mentioning anything. Let's say that on that day, the devout woman of the Li family in the courtyard heard that Simon King had died. She made a plan, prepared a sacrificial table, and sent Li Gixing and sister Li Gixing to sit in a sedan chair to offer condolences. If Yunyang doesn't come out, Li Jiar and Meng Yulu will take care of her in the upper room. Gixing and sister Gui of the Li family quietly said to Li Jiar, My mother said that people are already dead. You and I, the people in the courtyard, cannot keep such chastity. Since ancient times, there has been a banquet that lasts for thousands of miles. Let me teach you how to do it. There is something in there, so I secretly taught Li Ming to stay home. As the saying goes, Although Yangzhou is a good place, it is not a long-term love home. Jier took it to heart. Unexpectedly, Wang Lior, the wife of the Japanese and Korean Taoists, also prepared a sacrificial table. Kiao dressed up and came in a sedan chair to burn paper with Simon King, place the sacrifice before the spirit and just stand there. After standing there for a long time, no one came out to stay with me. It turns out that Simon King died, and within the first 7 hours, Wang Jing was sent away. Whenever the boy saw Wang Li were coming, he didn't dare to go in and say anything. Then Anner didn't know what was going on. He went to Yunyang's room and said to Yunyang, Aunt Han came to write a paper with Dad. She has been standing in front of me for a day. My uncle asked me to come and tell Mom. Wu Yunyang still felt this in her heart. He was so angry that he yelled and cursed. You weird thieves and slaves, if you don't go with me, what kind of Aunt Han and Aunt Cunt will come? They are thieves and dog-breeding whores who have ruined their families and destroyed their families. The husband ran away and the wife separated. What kind of cunt paper do you want to use? After scolding, Lai Anner couldn't touch the door and came to the coffin. Uncle Wu asked, Have you ever said anything to me later? Lai Anner was speechless with his mouth shut. After asking for a long time, he said, Mom, for horses have come out. Uncle Wu hurriedly went in and said to Yunyang, Sister, why are you waiting like this? Please stop talking. Since ancient times, people have not been polite. Damn, how can you wait for a man with so much money? A good reputation is rare. If you don't go out like this, teach the second sister and the third sister how to treat him well. Yes, tell others that you are not. Seeing her brother say this, Yunyang was speechless. After a long time, Meng Yilu came out, returned the gift, and sat with him in front of the soul. After only 1 minute of tea, the woman was a little anxious and couldn't sit still, so she left and laughed. Exactly, anyone who draws water from the Shijiang River will inevitably feel ashamed today. Li Gixing, Sister Gui, and Wu Yin'er were all sitting in the upper room. When they saw Yunyang scolding Han Daoguo's wife for being a harlot, she was short, and cutting down one plant would damage hundreds of branches. The two of them couldn't sit still, and they had to go home before sunset. Yu Nang repeatedly stayed with her two sisters. Wan Shi, my friend, I will stay with you every time, and you will go see me every time. Let's go tomorrow. After staying for half a day, Sister Gui and Sister Yin did not go, but sent his sister Gui Kings home. In the evening, the monks dispersed. As expected, there were many neighbors, clerks, supervisors, including Kiao Dahu, Uncle Wu, Second Uncle Wu, Uncle Shen, Hua Xiao, Earl Ying, Zida, Chang Zhiji, and more than 20 people, called for a puppet show, and set up a banquet in the big rolling shed to accompany the night. The drama proposed a Sun Rong and Sun Hua kill dogs to persuade husbands. The guests were all in the hall next to the tomb, surrounding the screen, lowering the curtains, placing tables and seats, and looking outside. Li Ming and Wu Hui agreed here, and Wan Shi also went home. After a while, everyone arrived. After the sacrifice, candles were lit in the rolling shed. People sat down at the banquet. Drums were played, and dramas were played. It was moved to the middle of the night, and the play was smooth. It turns out that since the death of Simon King, Chen Jingji has not been teasing Pan Jinlian every day, or he has glanced in front of the funeral and made fun of her behind the curtain. So everyone dispersed. All the guests went to the back, and the servants were collecting their work. Jin Lian caught his eye and pinched Jingji, saying, My son, your mother has made you happy today, while the eldest sister is behind. Let's go to your room. After hearing this, Jingji sighed and opened the door first. In the dark shadow, the woman slipped into his room without answering. She unbuttoned her trousers, lay down on the king, and taught Chen Jingji how to play. It's just that. Lust is as bold as the sky, fearing anything. Love for hundreds of years. Really, after meeting each other for 2 years, they become spouses. After several years of marriage, they become harmonious. A willow waist is swinging, and a jade stem is busy. The air tells the love of the rain and the clouds, and the pillow says the eternal oath of friendship. The orioles are plucked by the butterflies, and the fairies are playing with each other in 1,000 ways. The heavy rain is humiliating the clouds, and the charming girls are showing off their charms in thousands of ways. One kept calling her kiss and the other hugged her. The willow color is as green as ever when it is renovated, and the flowers remain as red as before. Suddenly the clouds and rain stopped, and the woman, fearing that someone might come, hurriedly left the room and went to the back. The next day, the young man tasted the sweetness and walked to Jinlian's room early in the morning. Jinlian was still under the quilt. Looking out of the window, he saw the woman being surrounded by red clouds, with pink cheeks and jade, and said, "You are good in charge of the warehouse. We can't get up now." Today, Kiao's father-in-law came to offer sacrifices, and Andy paid for the lisan that was laid out yesterday. Put in the Huang family's sacrificial table. Get up quickly and come out with the key. The woman quickly taught Chan Mai to get the key and give it to Jingji. Jingji first taught Chan Mai to go upstairs and open the door. The woman then stuck out her tongue from the window, and the two of them smacked each other. It's just how much fat the fragrance fills the mouth with saliva, and the sweet saliva fills the heart and lungs. There are words to prove it. Hate the cuckoo's sound through the bead curtain. The heart is like a needle and the love is like glue. I see smiling faces with sad cheeks, thin and slender spring hair, and messy buns, and green pines and clouds. When you sleep, your face will be flushed, and the jade will be reduced and the red will be added. Tango has been touched. It still smells delicious on my lips and tastes sweet when I think about it. After a long time, Chan Mei's upstairs door opened, and Jingji looked forward to see the sacrifices being carried. After a while, Kiao Da's family sacrifices came to lay down. Kiao Dahu's wife and many of Kiao Dahu's relatives paid tribute before the funeral. Uncle Wu, second Uncle Wu, and Brother Gan are here to accompany you. Please come to the rolling shed to take care of me. Li Ming and Wu Hua play and sing. On that day, Zhang Iur's family also came to pay their respects with paper. Yunyang ordered Yulu to send out a filial piety skirt and girdle her waist, and sat behind her with the guests. When Zhang Iur saw that sisters Li Gui and Wu Yin were here, she scolded them for not telling him. If I knew that my father was gone, there would be no one who wouldn't come. If you are a good person, you wouldn't let me go soon. See the moon again. After her mother gave birth to a child, she said, "Mother is happy and sad at the same time. It's a pity that my father died too early. You, the old man, have a master, so you don't have to worry about it." Yu Niang paid her filial piety and stayed until the evening before leaving. On the third day of the second lunar month, the 27th day of the Ximen festival, 16 Taoist priests from the Jade Emperor Temple, Wu Tuoguan, chanted sutras and performed rituals at home. On that day, He Qianhu in the Yamen made the creation, and met the two internal ministers Liu and Zhu, as well as Zhou Xiaobai, Jing Dudong, Zhang Tuanlian, Commander Yen and other military attaches, and they jointly made sacrifices on the altar. Yunyang invited Kiao Dahu, Uncle Wu, and Earl Ying to stay with her. Li Ming and Wu Hua, two young children, played and sang, and stayed in charge of the rolling shed. No need to elaborate. Recite sutras in the evening to bid farewell to death. Yunyang carried Li Ping'er's coffin out and set it on fire. Move all the boxes and cages into the upper room and stack them. Nanny Ryer and Yingchen agreed, leaving Shuchen and Li Jiar in the room. Lock the door to Li Ping'er's room. The pity is exactly this. The painted pillars and carved beams are not yet finished. And there are no crazy guests in front of the hall. There is poetry to prove it. The water under Xiangwang Terrace is long, and I feel a kind of lovesickness and two kinds of sadness. The moonlight is not as good as the personnel reform, and it is still on top of the white wall late at night. At that time, Li Ming used the Xiaodong to help out every day, secretly teaching Li Jiar to sneak things and deliver them to his home, and then promised to stay away from home for 2 or 3 nights, hiding it from Yunyang's eyes. Second Uncle Wu and Li Jiar had an old relationship. Who dared to say no? On the 9th day of the lunar month, after reciting the Sankey Sutra, Yunyang left the darkroom and did not recite the sutra on the 4th or 7th day. On the 12th day, Chen Jingji broke the ground and came back. On the morning of the 20th, there were many funeral documents and papers, but the number of mourners was not as dense as that of Li Ping'er. Before leaving the coffin, I also invited the monk Lang of Bowen Temple to pick up the coffin, sit on the sedan chair, hold it high, and recite a few verses. After reciting, Chen Jingji broke the paper basin, stood up from the coffin, and the whole family burst into tears. Wu Yunyang sat in the Seoul sedan, and the guests behind her got on the sedan. They all gathered round and walked out of the original ancestral Tomban house 5 miles outside the south gate. Chen Jingji prepared a ruler, asked Yin to direct the ceremony, and Mr. Yin Yangzu was buried. All the filial relatives have covered the ground. There were only 5 or 6 places where Uncle Wu, Kiao Dahu, He Qianhu, Uncle Shen, Uncle Han and other clerks were located on the mountaintop sacrificial table. Wu Taoist official also left 12 Taoist boys to return to their souls and sleep peacefully in the open room of the upper room. The yin and yang sweeping has been completed, and all the relatives are sent out. Wu Yunyang and others could not help but accompany their husbands to observe filial piety. One day after I came back from warming my tomb, I promised my class to rank up to the military level, and everyone said goodbye and went back to the Yamen. On the 57th day of the Ximen festival, Yunyang invited Aunt Su, Aunt Wang, the great master, and 12 nuns to recite sutras, perform repentance, and pray for her husband to be reborn in heaven. Wu Dajinsen and Wu Shenshen's daughter-in-law were all at home. It turned out that during the funeral, Li Gixing and Sister Gui were on the top of the mountain and quietly said this to Li Jiar. Mom said, "You don't have anything soft in your hands, so you don't have to just stay at his house. You have no children, so what are you keeping? I'm going to make a fuss and get out of here." Yesterday, my second brother told me that the second official of the main street wants to spend 500 taels of gold and silver to marry you and take care of the family. It doesn't matter if you stay here until you die. You and I, the people in our courtyard, are determined to abandon the old and embrace the new, and to follow the trend to become stronger. Don't miss the time. Li Jiar took this to heart and passed Simon Xingwigi. Afterwards, due to the wind and fire, I didn't use much force. Unexpectedly, Pan Jinlian told Sun Sui that on the day of the funeral, she saw Li Jiar and Uncle Wu talking to each other in the small garden room on the grave. In the Chunmai Shaodong, I saw Li Jiar passing the tent to Li Ming with a bag of things, stuffed it into his waist, and went home. The yelling Yunyang knew this, scolded Uncle Wu, rushed to the shop to do business, and was not allowed to come back again. The gate is safe, and Li Ming is not allowed to come and go. The flower girl's embarrassment turned into anger, and she couldn't find the reason. One day, Yunyang was having tea with the eldest concubine in the upper room, and she invited Meng Yulu, but she didn't invite him. She got angry and made a big fuss with Yunyang. They patted Ximen Qingling's bed, cried, and howled. Howl. At midnight, I have to hang myself in the room. The girl came to repay Yunyang. Yunyang panicked and discussed with the eldest concubine, asking the Li family's godly mother-in-law to send him back to the hospital. Afraid of leaving behind his clothes, head and face, Qianpo said a few words. "My family is just a lowly person here, trying to get rid of you. It's so easy to break up. We need dozens of taels of money to cover up our shame." Uncle Wu lived here. He was an official, but he didn't dare to take the initiative. After talking to him for a long time, he taught Yunyang to give him all the clothes, jewelry, boxes, bed tents, and household chores in his room before sending him out. "I just don't want to go with his 2 girls, Yuing Xiao and Xu Chen. Li Jiar wants these 2 girls' life and death." Yunyang refused to live or die with him, and said, "It would be better for you to buy a good girl and become a prostitute." This sentence frightened the madam, and she did not dare to speak. She turned into a smile and said goodbye to Yunyang. Li Jiar sat on the sedan chair and carried went home. The judge heard that the singers in the courtyard make a living by being pretty and make a career out of makeup. They are romantic in the morning and prodigal in the evening. I enter through the front door and pick up my son through the back door. They abandon the old and pity the new. They open their eyes to money. This is the law of nature. Rao Jun is attached to you in every possible way, and all kinds of cages can't lock him away from his will. Either they stole food and wiped their mouths when they were alive, or they left the house shouting after death. No matter what time of day, I would eat porridge from the same old pot. Exactly, the snake enters the tube with its curvature, and the bird flies lightly out of the cage. There is poetry to prove it. It's funny that the fireworks are not long, and the bridegroom is changed every night. 2 jade wrists serve as pillows for thousands of people. and a bit of red lips can be tasted by thousands of guests. Create all kinds of beauties and create a false heart. Mr. Rao always has a trap in his mind, and it is hard to guarantee that he will miss his hometown temporarily. Yunyang sent Li Jiar out and burst into tears. Everyone was standing by to give advice, and Pan Jinlian said, "Sister, stop worrying. As the saying goes, marry a prostitute and raise hiking. And you don't have enough food and water to think about Haidong." This was all what he did for a living. And today he is teaching a big job. My sister is so annoying. The house was in chaos, and suddenly he came to report that he was safe. Dad Kaizunian is here. He is sitting in the hall. I said that my father is gone. He asked how long he was gone. I died of illness on the 21st of the first lunar month. It's been 5 days since then. He asked if there was a spirit. I said there was a spirit and I was supporting him from behind. If he wanted to come to pay homage to the spirit, I would tell my mother, "Tell your brother-in-law to go out and see him." After a while, Chen Jingji put on his mourning clothes and went out to meet Kai Yeshi. After a long time, they finished packing and invited Kai Yeshi to come in and pay homage in front of Ximen Qingling. Yunyang, dressed in full filial piety, came out to return the gift. Without saying a word, Yunyang said, "Madam, please go back to your room." Then she said to Jingji, "I used to disturb you in the mansion, and now I'm back to Beijing after my business trip. Come and say thank you. I'm an old friend." He asked, "What's the disease?" Chen Jingji said, "It's a phlegm-fire disease." Kai Yeshi said, "It can hurt." He called his family to come up and take out to pieces a piece of Hangzhou silk, a pair of velvet socks, for tails of white cattails, and for cans of candied fruits. He said, "These small gifts can be used as a memorial ceremony." He also took out 50 taels of silver and said, "This is what I loaned to the son." The old man has saved some salary to repay the favor. Pingan said, "Official, please bring it to your room." Jingji said, "That is too careless." Yunyang said, "Please sit down in the front hall." Kai Yeshi said, "There's no need to sit down. Just bring me some tea." After a while, he brought the tea. After Kai Yeshi ate, he got up and got into the sedan chair. Yunyang got the 50 taels of silver, and she felt so happy and so sad at the same time. When he was round, officials came like this and were willing to let them go. I don't know how late we will be drinking. Today he stretched out his legs, had nothing to do with his belongings, and saw no one to accompany him. Exactly, when people make friends, it is the wind and moon, and when the sky opens up, the picture is the country. When Li Jia arrived home, Count Ying heard about it and reported it to Zhang Erguan. So he came with 5 taels of silver and asked him to rest for the night. It turns out that Zhang Erguan's little Ximen King is 1 year old, and he is a rabbit, so he is 32 years old. Li Jia was 34 years old, but the Jin Po hid the fact that she was 6 years old. She only said that she was 28 years old, so the Earl kept it a secret. He spent 300 taels of silver, married her into his family, and became his second wife. Zhu Xinian and Sun Zizui still led Wang Sangwaner, and even came to Li's house to have sex with Sister Gui. The Earl, Li San, and Huang Si borrowed 5,000 taels of silver from Zhu Nixiang, and Zhang Erguan paid out 5,000 taels and made a batch of money and food for Dongping Mansion's ancient utensils. Every day, the precious saddles and horses were swaying in the courtyard. Seeing that Ximen King was dead, Zhang Erguan also packed up thousands of taels of gold and silver, went to Tokyo to seek out the relatives of Emperor Zheng of the Privy Council, and told Tai Weizhu in the hall that he wanted to take advantage of Ximen King's vacancy in the prison. The family is tidying up, buying a garden, and building a house. Earl Ying stayed with him every day and told him everything about Ximen King's family, saying, "There is also a 5th wife in his family, Pan Jinlian, who is the 6th sister. She was born as beautiful as a painting, and her poems he is proficient in all kinds of songs, Taoist calligraphy, and Shuanglu chess. He can also write well and play the pipa well. He is not even 30 years old, and he is even better at singing." The second official Zhang was furious and wanted to kill her, so he asked, "Is it Wu Daling's wife who sold cooking cakes?" The count said, "That's her. She has occupied the house for 5 or 6 years now. I don't know whether he is married or not." Erguan Zhang said, "Please ask around. When you hear of someone getting married, come and tell me. Wait until I get married. The Earl said, I have it in my body. I am a member of his family, and my name is Lai Juyer. I will tell him if he wants to get married. It is rare for you to marry someone like him, and it is better than marrying a singer at that time. When the official King dynasty was here, I didn't know how much effort was put into marrying him. Most things have their own owners, so I couldn't help but marry him happily. If you have such power, you won't be able to share the glory with this beautiful woman. I have a lot of wealth in vain. I only called you to inquire closely, but there is a married woman, and I can impress her with my sweet words. But you use a few hundred taels of silver to marry me into the family, and you can use it as much as you like. Yes, the judge heard that those who help others are extremely snobs in the world. At the beginning, Simon King treated Count Ying like a stick, better than his compatriots. On that day, he did not eat from him, wear his clothes, and accept his things. Not long after his death, his flesh and bones were still warm, so he committed many unjust things. It is difficult to paint the skin of a tiger, and it is difficult to paint the bones of a tiger. There is poetry to prove it. In the past, his voice was like a golden orchid, and he was not easy to follow in every possible way. Since Simon's death, many people have found concubines to sleep with.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.